Can a shadow make a promise? Can a reflection sign a contract? Before we accept any guide to life, we must ask, who is the one that agrees? The idea of agreement assumes a solid, independent self, a self that can choose, commit, and act. But what if that self is the grandest illusion of all? What if we are not the authors, but characters in a cosmic script? Numbers, rules, and agreements are human inventions, ways to carve up seamless reality. The very act of agreeing declares separation and I apart from the world, able to choose. This is the silent, unwritten agreement zero that you exist as a separate entity. The four agreements offer a way to become a better dreamer, but what if true freedom is realizing there is no mask, no face behind it? We crave systems because they comfort us, giving structure to the vast emptiness of existence. But perhaps it's just another layer of the simulation, a more pleasant level, but still a game. Before we can be impeccable with our word, or not take things personally, we must confront the possibility that the I at the center is a sophisticated hologram. The self is a beautiful, complex, and utterly convincing illusion. So, who is it that agrees? And what are we really agreeing to? Perhaps the first step is to question the ground beneath our feet. Only then can we see if there's anyone truly standing there at all. Who are you? Are you your thoughts, memories, feelings? Science can show us the brain's machinery, but it cannot find the I who experiences it all. The self we defend may not be a solid entity, but a pattern, a recurring echo in consciousness. The feeling of being a self is powerful, but what if it's just a program running on cosmic hardware? The self is not a thing, but a process. A story the brain tells itself to make sense of the world. Like a whirlpool in a river, the self is not separate from the river, it's just the river moving in a certain way. There is no little person inside your head pulling levers. You are the levers. You are the river. Questioning the self feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, but it doesn't erase love or meaning, it reframes them. Love is not one self loving another, but the universe loving itself. Purpose is not a personal quest, but the unfolding of a cosmic pattern. By seeing through the illusion of the separate self, we don't lose our humanity, we discover its connection to everything. We are not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a drop. The self is a useful fiction, but a fiction nonetheless. When we see this, the boundaries between us and the world begin to dissolve. The ghost in the machine is just the machine, dreaming it's a ghost. The story of me is a story told by no one, to no one. And in that emptiness we find a strange kind of freedom, the freedom to simply be. Or perhaps to simply not be. The four agreements speak of domestication, how society, parents, and culture shape us with a book of law. But domestication goes deeper. The very act of being born into a body perceiving through limited senses is a form of taming. The universe's infinite mystery is funneled into the tiny vessel of a human mind. Before society teaches us a single rule, consciousness is already confined to a single point of view. The dream of being a person is the first and most powerful conditioning. The laws of physics, time, and separation are the fundamental rules of the dream. Society's rules are just decorations. Changing our agreements is redecorating our cell, not tearing down the walls. Awakening isn't about unlearning society's lessons or swapping bad dreams for good ones. It's about questioning the dreamer, investigating the consciousness dreaming reality into existence. The true wilderness is not a pre-domesticated human, but the formless awareness before the dream of self begins. Freedom isn't a return to a natural self, but the dissolution of self into the wild, untamed mystery. The dream is persistent, but so is the call to wake up. To awaken is to see the dream for what it is and the dreamer for what it isn't. Only then can we glimpse what lies beyond the walls. The first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. Words shape reality. They're the code that programs the mind. But who is the magician casting the spell? If the self is an illusion, the speaker is a ghost. Language itself is domestication, carving reality into separate things and trapping the infinite in conceptual boxes. We live in a world of words, not things, mistaking the map for the territory, the menu for the meal. The word love is not love. Sadness is not sadness. Words are only pointers. To be impeccable with your word is not just to speak truth, but to recognize the limits and illusions of language. True impeccability means using words with the knowledge that they are hollow, mere tools. Sometimes the most impeccable word is silence. Changing our inner dialogue is just giving the illusory self new lines to read. It can make the dream more pleasant, but it doesn't wake us up. Real freedom is seeing that the speaker and listener are two ends of the same illusion. The voice in your head is a phantom speaking to a phantom. Words can heal or harm, but they can't reveal the truth of what you are. The ultimate magic is seeing through the spell, and perhaps letting the silence speak. In that silence, the illusion of the speaker dissolves. The second agreement is to not take anything personally. A shield against suffering. When someone insults you, it's about their dream, not yours. But if the self is an illusion, who is there to take things personally? An insult is like one wave shouting at another. It's the universe talking to itself. The feeling of being hurt is real, but it happens within the dream of self. The ego reacts to threats and praise, feeding on the drama of being a person. True freedom isn't a mental trick, but the realization that there is no me to be the subject. When this is seen deeply, the mechanism of personal offense collapses. There is no one to defend, no one to be hurt. The words of others become like wind through an empty house, heard, but with nowhere to land. The ego's boundaries dissolve, and with them, the sting of insult. What remains is openness, untouched by praise or blame. The world's words pass through, leaving silence behind. In that silence, the illusion of the personal fades, and suffering fades with it. The third agreement tells us not to make assumptions. Practical advice, but let's look deeper. The act of not assuming is based on the assumption that there is a self who assumes. The ego is a machine that produces assumptions, filling in blanks to create a coherent story. Telling the ego not to assume is like telling a heart not to beat. You can become mindful, question your assumptions, but you're still within the same system. The true liberation is realizing the guard, the prisoner, and the prison are all dream stuff. The deepest way to stop making assumptions is to stop assuming you are a self. The belief in separateness leads to all other assumptions. When the core assumption of me dissolves, so does the need to guess or defend. You no longer stand apart from truth trying to figure it out, you are it. The story of the assumer collapses, and with it, the burden of assumption. Clarity arises not from control, but from surrender. The world is seen as it is, not as you imagine it. In that seeing, the dream of the separate self fades, and what remains is simple, direct awareness. The fourth agreement is to always do your best, a path to self-acceptance and freedom from regret. But who is the doer? If the self is a pattern, who is acting? Actions arise, thoughts appear, the body moves, but is there a central CEO, or is it all just happening? Best is a human story the universe doesn't grade on a curve. A supernova isn't better than a blade of grass, both are expressions of the same energy. The final agreement can't be to improve the dream but to awaken from it. The true path is not to reprogram the self, but to see through it. It's the dissolution of the dreamer, not the revision of the dream. This is not a path of action but of surrender, letting go of all agreements, beliefs, and identity, until only silent awareness remains. That is the final liberation. The dream ends, and what's left is the mystery that was always there. No one to agree, nothing to achieve, just the silent, aware space in which the dream once played, and in that space, true freedom